Yes indeed, it's Saturday morning, which means it is time for Live from the Heartland. How you doing out there, everybody in Chicago? It is a gorgeous day to start our 4th of July weekend. We have some good citizen-aware things that we're going to cover today. Of course, we always cover what we should be aware of, whether we want to or not, that stuff. But we're also going to do a little bit of citizenship quizzing. Me of my partners and co-hosts here, and anybody else who wants to be embarrassed by their lack of knowledge about what our country is made of. We also have tremendous guests. We have Katy and Lake James of Twin Peaks. Yay! We have Nolan Chin on the keyboard, which I'm probably erroneously resting my arm on right now. I'm excited.
It's okay.
Live music right here at the show. And we also have Alyssa Baum of Old Town School of Folk Music and Roots Fest, where we'll be talking about Roots Fest. Good morning, Michael. Good morning, Tom. I've missed you.
Good morning, Katie.
Hey, Kate, how you been? You did a great job the last 2 weeks taking care of manning or womaning this show
Staffing.
by yourself.
Staffing's an appropriate
There
word.
you go. There you go. Yeah, but I'm really glad that you're back.
We're glad to be back.
You know, there's only so much hearing your own voice. I know for some people that's not the case, but for me, yeah.
What are you trying to say?
Hey, you know what? Before we forget, just in case, this is a public service announcement. In case your car sticker runs out today, and you know the city and state, both of them, have taken a new tack. They like to not warn you, so that they might get extra fees out of you, the late fees.
It's at least $100 for that city permit.
It's tawdry of both of them.
Yeah, try it with a pickup truck.
It's ridiculous. So check your car, and if you have to re-up your sticker, do it today without the flipping late fees.
I think they were going to, I know they don't give you a grace period anymore, but I think they were not going to start giving tickets till after the 4th of July.
Yeah, I don't trust that.
Either
As far
do
as
I.
I could punt
The
it.
mayor might be able to afford all those red camera tickets, but for the rest of us, $1,500, that's a big chunk of change. And the city and the state are not doing us right by letting us know when we owe them something. So it's really a mess.
Who's got my coffee?
Was this it, or this?
That was it.
Well, here, have some.
Okay, so what else? We've got Network 49 is doing their canvas again this morning. We've done, this will be the 3rd since we started in June, and we'll be racing out of this show.
What could be more patriotic on Independence Day weekend but to go out and meet your neighbors to a neighborhood canvas to find out what kind of political leadership we want next?
Indeed.
Because indeed we need to change our current political leadership. I don't care what level of government you're
Pretty much
talking
on
about.
every level.
And the way we start that is at the grassroots, and today, starting at 10:30 at the Red Line Tap, or now Heartland North, or Heartland East.
Bar.
The Heartland Bar.
Quit naming it yourself. They named it. They unnamed it and named it again. So it's the Heartland Bar. What used to be the Red Line Tap. And there's a little
Before that, it was Roy's, and going way back, it was the
Hams.
706 Club, it was Ham's Tap, and it was the Rogers Park Yacht Club back in the 30s.
Now that we've completely confused people.
History, baby.
Also with Network 49 is an upcoming meeting next Saturday on July 8th at the Rogers Park Library at 11 a.m. of the Housing and Community Development Committee. It has been busy developing the outlines of community benefit agreements, particularly with 2 new housing developments just announced. We are a growing group of concerned neighbors. Please join us at 11 o'clock at the Rogers Park Library on July 8th.
Okay, so this was a fascinating week. I think as of today, we've become the first state in the history of the United States to start a 3rd year without a budget. Good work, Springfield.
Excellent job,
Good
leaders.
work. Oh, yeah, let's hear it for all the men and women. Well, I guess we can leave Christine Rodonio out of that since she said, I've
She
had
bailed.
enough.
She bailed.
I have had enough. She's a reasonable person.
Very reasonable
And
person.
has been, you know, knocking her head against the wall for years in that chamber.
I actually think it's not good news for the state that
No.
she has bowed out, because she was one reasonable voice, and now the rest are scrambling because we're about to get another bond rating hit. And it could happen as early as today, although they might wait until Monday. You know, the dear speaker asked the bond rating agencies to wait. Can you imagine him using that argument during one of his property tax appeals? Of course, he'd probably get that because he knows everybody on the Board of Tax Appeals because he helped him get elected. But we'll talk about that another time, right? Because the speaker is our hero right now for somehow holding the dike back.
I didn't mean to go that far when I said, what are the
So,
Democrats?
I don't know what dike he's holding back, given that we're flooded with debt and poor credit ratings, and our schools may not open in the fall, and we have nonprofits flailing left and right, laying off staff.
Yeah, the
Great
victims-
management, guys.
The
Well
victims
done.
of this state debacle are growing, and it's incredible. What did you say? Family Focus laid off 75% of its
As
staff.
of this morning,
It's really untenable, and why? And then we've got the scenario of okay, that the states, that's one thing, but then we have the county soda tax got waylaid yesterday. I'm not sure that that's a good idea, but because that was Tony Preckwinkle's attempt to cover what she's not getting from the state. So that's tricky.
it's a terrible tax.
We've got more property tax hikes coming. High interest loans for the public schools are in play. Junk status is the way we're referred to. Isn't that uplifting, fellow Illinoisans, to wake up and hear your state?
And in case our listeners, don't want to get into all this technical stuff, we're lucky with our meager savings accounts, if we have them, to be earning maybe 0.2% now, as opposed to 0.1. The school bonds that were sold, about 6.5%.
Yeah.
And the regular bonds, about 8%.
It's terrible.
Bondholders just love the deadbeat state of Illinois.
I guess.
Run by a billionaire governor who has 9 mansions.
Yeah, it's a good idea to hire these business guys to run government.
They really
isn't it?
know how to do
they really know
efficient
how
work.
to run it into the ground. Yeah.
$15 billion in unpaid bills. That's $15 billion, not counting the pension debt. I remember when we were talking about the pension debt being $90 billion. It's somewhere north of 120 and counting every day.
I'm getting depressed.
Hey, it's the 4th of July, music and patriotism.
All right, wait, one thing. The other, we decided that there's one name we're not mentioning this morning, but there was something I did yesterday to react to that, which was to call the Board of Elections and say, do not by any means.
Can I set this up a little bit?
Sure, set it up.
I think it's really interesting that the states' rights get rid of the federal government, get their fingers out of all of our stuff. Now want all our voter registration rolls reported into the central government for a commission that is studying a fake news story.
That's right. That's right. Folks, please, you know that there were not millions, quote unquote, millions of illegal votes cast last November. I don't know why the person who supposedly, quote unquote, won the election is complaining about.
Because he didn't win the popular election, and he claims the difference is voter fraud. No
Yeah.
evidence. And
None
the head of this
whatsoever.
commission, the Secretary of State of Kansas running for governor,
And he is
probably the
right-wing
biggest
dude.
record for getting rid of voters off the VIP registration rolls of any other.
I missed that.
Secretary.
Who is that?
Oh, the name of the commission, I'm blanking out on his
Oh.
name because I hope he fades away, but
Yeah.
he now wants the federal government to have all our voting records.
And he had bags under his eyes, looked like he's
Okay.
having a rough time too.
Okay. Whoever he is. Well, I got this email back from Jim Allen of the Chicago Elections Board saying, you have received this email because one or more callers today, while asking about requests that may be filed for voter lists, provided this email address. That's me. The Chicago Election Board has not received any requests from the White House or any commission appointed by the White House for a list of voter records or voter history. However, under the Illinois Freedom of Information Act, this election authority, and others like it around the state, are required to make public the list of all voters and indications of when those voters did or did not participate in different elections. The Chicago Board of Elections lists do not include personal identifying information such as portions of social security numbers, dates of birth, or signatures. We hope this information is helpful, and thank you for the opportunity. I have more questions for that than not, because I have registered enough voters in my lifetime to know that, yes, in fact, if you don't have a driver's license, they do use the last 4 numbers of your social security, and your signature is your thumbprint, essentially, for the voting. So I'm not sure, Jim Allen, if you know what you're talking about on this. Anyway, we are not.
As of this morning's paper, 25 states have refused to comply with this new federal order.
Thank you.
And I just think it's an interesting example of states' rights and hanging on to that local prerogative and not letting some central authority under the current regime know who all voted and for whom and when, which is essentially what they would have in a central database, which we are so good at protecting from hacks and other things these days, right?
Yeah, we're real good at that. Yeah, just something fun. Let me try this. Free movies in the park at Loyola, Saturday, July 8th, Queen of Katwe. The Ugandan girl experiences changes in her life after learning the game of chess. That's next Saturday.
There is an interesting show at the Heartland Cafe that's coming to a close this weekend. Our dear colleague Michael James, who's been launching several shows the last few years, this time it was pretty much all about Rogers Park.
All about Rogers Park, and there were 2 shot in West Ridge.
That's close enough. Very nice write-up at DNA Info.
Yeah, Lindsay Rice, thanks a lot. It was a nice write-up. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, 4 to 7 is the closing event of this show. The pictures are pictures starting in 1976 when Katy and I were first starting to work on the Heartland Cafe, and they go up through the present, probably at least to 2017, 16.
Yeah, so what have you learned from doing this? You really dove into your photography since we sold the Heartland, which I love, because as I tell many people, you've said to me for 40 years that you will write a book called Pictures from the Long Haul, and lo and
Getting
behold,
closer.
Lo and behold, that's in the works, and I'm real proud of the beautiful work that you do. What does it teach you to go out there and put your stuff up the way you have been doing for the last few years, both at the Heartland and in Fitzgerald's Place, Adventureland?
Well, I've learned a lot about framing and finding frames on discount. I got to say that the black frames or white frames work well, and you can get them pretty cheap now on sale from Michaels.
Not sure I was expecting that, but go ahead.
And I've also I haven't shot any actual film for a couple years now because a bunch of my cameras went on the road with Katy, and whether it was he or me, but none of them are working. So I have Pentax and Nikons that I need to get fixed so I can still shoot some film. But I did get a camera a couple years back from my friend Ivan Handler, and it's been, I gotta say, I like shooting with the digital because you can shoot a lot of pictures pretty quickly, and I do spend a lot of time on these road trips, which there's a lot of talk about road trips these days, but I've been doing it off and on, often with Gordon Thompson, the old track coach at Loyola, who is the wheelman, and wherever we go, I'm hanging out the window, rolling the window down and shooting pictures.
Right.
And I like that. And I do a little bit more of that in Rogers Park, too, than I used to. I've been taking my camera when I go up to Chapala to eat or moving around the neighborhood.
But what are you hearing from the people that look at these?
Yeah, what's the...
I get a lot of compliments. I get minimal sales still. I think that... I'm doing a lot of work on it. You look at pictures, you get them printed, you get them framed, you have to select them, you have to edit them. My son David Littman helps me with the Photoshop work on the digitals or on the scanning.
And next I'm going to work on your artist statement so that you have a very sharp vision of what it is that you're trying to do with this wonderful display that you can see in the Heartland Cafe.
I'm trying to share really what I see and the wonderful things that go on around me, or not so wonderful. There's one shot in that of a fire on Clark Street that was a little, unfortunate, but it was the day that they pulled out and used the foam for the first time and didn't go right.
Boy, did they ever use the phone.
Yeah.
I remember that fire.
I try to document things. I have a sense of history, and I think that people should know where we're coming from, where we've been, and hopefully that some of these pictures inspire us for where we're going to go.
So invite people to the closing event tomorrow, Michael.
Tomorrow afternoon, 4 to 7 at the lovely Heartland Cafe and dining room, there is an exhibit called Sweet Home Rogers Park, and there are photos that I, Michael James, took over the last 40 years. And I'd love to have somebody show up at least to see them and have a little conversation and a good time before we go on to the rest of the 4th of July weekend.
And to mark that, our dear colleague Katie is about ready to test our citizenship skills.
Speaking of history, aye.
Uh-oh.
So, you know, and when I taught politics, I would often give my students the citizenship test because it was pretty intense. When I checked it out this week, I observed it has changed quite a bit. It's not as hard as it used to be.
Oh,
It's really not as hard as it used to be. But let me just throw a few things by you, because I also have quiz prizes.
oh,
Uh-huh.
it's a
So,
full, complete quiz.
the idea
Katie
of
Hogan's grilling us.
the idea of self-government is in the first three words of the Constitution. What are these words?
We the people.
Excellent.
Right
Well
on,
done.
Michael. Right
I'm betting
on.
1,000.
So far. What is one right, one of the many rights or freedoms from the First Amendment?
Freedom of speech.
That's one.
Freedom of assembly.
That's another. You got it. That's good.
No
The others
established
would
state
be
religion.
religion, press, petition the government. What are two rights in the Declaration of Independence?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
Well, it was a declaration.
Right of assembly?
Two rights in the Declaration of Independence.
Life, liberty,
And happiness.
Pursuit of
Pursuit of
happiness.
happiness.
Yes, indeed, those three. The Declaration, of course, came before the Constitution.
Is that enough? Look, are we looking good? Or are we going to keep
you're
going?
Doing, you're doing pretty good. Let me just check if there's one more. What in today's world, we should be remembering what stops one branch of government from becoming too powerful.
well,
Checks and balances.
Bingo. And separation of powers would also have worked. He's quicker to the
he's
buzzer.
very quick. He had more coffee this morning.
Not enough, though.
Looking for coffee here, people. Looking for coffee. All right. If the president and the vice president can no longer serve, who becomes
Speaker of
president?
the House.
Speaker.
Yeah. So we don't want that to
Yeah,
happen.
we sure don't. And we really don't want the vice president. I mean, it's a rough state of affairs.
All right. So for those of you who are interested, you can check out the 100 civics questions and answers at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And for both of you, I have a copy of the Constitution. Your very own.
Oh, Katie, thank you.
You betcha.
Thank you very much. It's should be a very popular document. I know at least one person
Who
on
needs
vacation somewhere this weekend who should read it for the first time.
You can take a red one if you want, Michael. I know you like little red books.
Yeah, but blue's my favorite color. Check these eyes.